The dream garden of Lakeville may not look like much, but it is enveloped in an interesting history. Constructed in 1959 by Scotsman Robert Joeman, the garden has had a continued success among the generations since.
I think it had a lot to do with Robert's landscaping skills.
The expansions were amazing. Robert sent me a newspaper at the time.
Robert was very friendly and always jovial and had a clear enthusiasm for gardening.
Mr. Joeman, born in 1939, came to Australia wanting to build a garden.
He told me when he was living in Scotland, in the city, there wasn't enough room for gardens.
He was a clever, amusing lad. He always loved gardening.
Robert was a good, funny, friendly bloke. Whenever I was down the back and he was working on the garden, he would always make me laugh.
Rob's wonderfully infectious joy spread through Lakeville, even to Frank, the local real estate agent.
He was a very eager man and very funny.
It even spread to Lakeville's Historical Society.
Robert's magnificent garden, it sparked our interest instantly. And when I went to speak to him, I couldn't stop laughing.
Let's take a look at how the garden began. The Digmaster 670 was the original spade used by Robert to start the garden.
I'm actually lucky enough to have in my possession a photograph of the first time that spade hit the ground. And as you can see, Robert looks eager to get to work.
Robert bought the land from Frank's Real Estate.
He burst in here asking for a piece of land. I needed the business and he was very eager.
Though it was small, the flowers that he used looked great, and it looked like a garden of a royal.
I've only ever seen the original garden in photographs. It was a small, square flower box, but I could see it was going to get bigger and better.
And bigger and better it became.
The expansions were amazing and added to the value.
Yes, they made the patch of land much more than just a piece of grass.
The guy really knew what he was doing.
They made it look fantastic.
The expansions, yes, they made a whole lot of difference.
The plants that Robert used included jade, pigface, and geranium.
The lavender and other small plants that Rob planted took off wonderfully, and the bridge looked like it was the work from a professional gardener.
The bridge was also constructed in the workshop by none other than David O'Brien. The pond was also put in around this time.
Yes, the little pond. It was basically a shallow green tub put in the ground. It was shallow, and David tried to put this little seagull ornament in the middle of it.
But the pond had to go.
Yes, the pond. I did hear that it was hard to keep clean and that small children kept worrying about small creatures that got drowned in it.
But I personally had to ask Robert to remove it because one day my guinea pig Julius got out of his cage and drowned in it.
It also had to be cleaned all the time.
Not only was the pond removed because of the creatures that were drowning, but also because there was a lavender growing right beside the rim.
The lavender that's there now looks great.
Along with the pond, the bridge built by David was also removed. Robert's reasons given for this were that it was in the way and made the garden harder to maintain.
The stone path that was made, it really gives the garden a professional look.
Lakeville embraced the garden, and so began the great success of the Dream Garden.
Once it expanded, people started visiting it too. Robert knew exactly what he was doing with that garden.
It was in a prime position in Lakeville, so many people would see it every day. The garden is fantastic, and it soon became a meeting place for many social groups.
The success of the garden could be attributed to many things. One of those reasons could be that Robert allowed young kids to help him on many an occasion, and one of those kids was my son.
I remember the seniors of the town used it as a picnic area.
Children, teenagers and families all use the garden for their outings and picnics and the like. My elders group goes there every Friday now for an outing.
People would visit on the weekends, and it crawled its way into Lakeville's residents' hearts.
Fate, destiny, call it what you will, that garden had no other path than to become successful.
The plants that were chosen made the garden look so appealing.
And of course, the garden plays a very important part in Scottish-Australian relations.
The late 80s was a fabulous time for Robert and the Dream Garden, but 1989 saw a grim time for the garden and Lakeville. The garden was going to be destroyed.
Oh, I was devastated after all the work that Robert had put into the garden. I can't believe someone would have the nerve to destroy it.
Ah, bugger, I thought. We'll have to do something about this, I said to the wife.
Oh, I was shocked. I couldn't understand the council member who wanted a big eyesore of a building instead of Robert's beautiful dream garden.
I was unhappy. I didn't know why it had to go.
I was extremely upset.
Newspaper headlines from the time show just how angry everybody was.
I have a newspaper clipping from the time.
Robert sent me a newspaper at the time to show me what was happening.
So the whole town got together and signed a petition.
This is the petition that people have signed that do not want the garden to be destroyed. There's quite a few pages of...
The petition was signed by nearly everyone in Lakeville, and when David took it to the council, they got exactly what they wanted.
We did it, we did it! They took one look at all the names, and then they signed it, saying that they won't destroy the garden, and it's going to be heritage listed.
The efforts of Lakeville paid off, and the Dream Garden was not only to remain, but also become a heritage-listed site.
I never had the faintest idea it would become heritage listed.
Considering I was the one who heritage listed the garden, yes, it was a fantastic time.
The papers were signed at the beginning of 1990, and nothing but good things have followed.
Yes, it was a great moment for Lakeville.
For Robert, it was better than winning the lotto.
Everyone was extremely pleased, and I was simply thrilled to see Rob's lifelong dream of having a popular and successful garden come true.
By the late 90s and early 2000s, Robert was getting on in his years, and needed a new person to look after the garden. And that job fell to his lifelong friend, David O'Brien.
He has stuck closely to Robert's original plan. His work is wonderful.
And of course, the expansions that I made were fantastic. And it's been a pleasure continuing this for my Scottish friend. Yes, David's work on the garden was really good.
His work is outstanding.
He's a good bloke and a professional gardener, but instead of clearly trying to stamp his mark on the garden, he's just continuing from Robert's work and maintaining it.
Robert Joeman, after spending 50 years with the Dream Garden, died in the beginning of 2009.
I want to thank all of the residents of Lakeville for making Robert and his garden so welcome.
We all hope the Dream Garden will be around for many years to come.
I'm very lucky to be the person to sell the land for the famous Dream Garden.
The garden is a dream come true for Robert, and I'm glad I was the one to make it heritage listed.
The Dream Garden is amazing, and I'm so glad Lakeville has embraced it the way they have.